Magandang buhay, grade 10. So, welcome sa ating pangalawang linggo kung saan we have the asynchronous learning distance modality. So, sa pangalawang linggo, kung last week we are focused about the assemble computer, personal computer, sa ating pangalawa, continuation lang siya, pero dito we have the actual PC assembly and disassembly. Kung last time meron tayong mga activities na talagang hindi natin nagawan o nasunod doon sa module, ngayong week, we are following the module. Pero babaguhin natin ng may twist at kung saan mapapadali po ang inyong mga activities or hindi ganun kayo mahihirapan sa ating pangalawang linggo. Now, paalala, hanggat maaari ipasa ang inyong mga activity sa nakatakdang oras kasi iba po yung nakapagpasa on time kesa sa mga late o hindi nakapagpasa na kung saan namaminusan po ang inyong mga grade. At huwag maging masyadong kampante sa mga activities kasi siguraduhin pong ito ay performance task. Baka mamaya nanonood lang kayo o binibigay lang po ang inyong mga codes. Malalaman ko po yan sa inyong mga kaklase. Again, sa pangalawang linggo, meron tayong mga skill test na target natin pagdating sa ating lesson. I'm hoping na panoorin maigi, intindihin, i-apply sa sarili kung inyo po itong alam, at the same time, may apply din kung ito po ay nasa inyong tahanan. I'm hoping na maintindihan at maging handa sa darating na Biyernes sa ating online quiz 2. Dahil ang coverage nito ay lahat ng mga lesson na mapag-aaralan nyo ngayong linggo gamit ang ating tinatawag na video presentation. So I'm hoping makinig, intindihin, at matuto sa ating video lesson katulong si Ma'am Maricor Hernandez sa pagpupresent ng ating lesson for this week. I'm hoping na maintindihan. Thank you and good luck sa ating lahat. So for our week 1 objective, target natin ay regarding with our lesson outcome, assemble computer hardware. Para dito sa lesson na to, we have the 1.3 which is coverage is the personal computer assembly and disassembly. Dito, matututo tayo kung paano ba ang tamang pagbabaklas at pag-assemble ng ating personal computer. So, for this learning competency, our target is to perform you the basic skills that are necessary to assemble and disassemble a computer system or personal computer. So dito malalaman natin kung paano ba ang tamang procedure sa pag-assemble at pag-disassemble ng ating personal computer. Next, connect the peripheral of a personal computer. Ano bang mga peripheral ang kinakabit sa ating personal computer kapag ito ay ginagamit? At paano ba yung procedure ng paggamit o pagkakabit nito? Basta lang ba natin siyang kakabit sa ating computer o system unit? Meron tayong mga procedure na dapat tandaan. So, welcome to our week 2 of our lesson in ICT or Information Communication Technology. We have the competency computer system servicing. And for our week 1 or quarter 1, week 2, part of assemble computer hardware, we have the learning outcome assemble computer hardware, part of the TLE. So, we will have our at least pre-test. Good luck! So, for our pre-test, na later on, i-comment nyo dito sa post na to mamaya yung inyong sagot. So number your papers from 1 to 10 and write the title Safety Precaution. Again, after nyo mapanood to, i-comment nyo sa baba kung ano yung sagot nyo dito sa ating safety precaution. So you need to write the word true if the statement is correct and false if it's wrong. Number your papers from 1 to 10. Ready na? Okay, so let's start. Again, ang gagawin po mamaya, after nyo makapagsagot sa inyong papel, i-comment lang ang inyong sagot sa comment section nitong post na link na to. So number 1, true or false? Always ground or discharge yourself after touching any part of the computer. Next, number 2, do not work alone so that there's someone who can take care of you in case of emergency or accident. Number 3, use only rubber shoes when standing on the ground or in concrete floor. Next, number 4, always power on or plug the computer before working on it. Number 5, take away any liquid such as water or soft drinks near your work area or near computer. Next one. Number 6, personal protective equipment is correctly used in accordance with organization, OHS, procedure, and practices. Number 7, hazard or risk in the workplace and their corresponding indicator are identified to minimize or eliminate the risk of coworker, workplace, and environment. Next, number 8, read and follow instruction on the manual when it's necessary. Number 9, take necessary precaution to protect the component of computer from damage used by electrostatic discharge. And 10, always pull the cable connector on the cable itself and not to the handle. So again, you need to comment your answer from 1 to 10 or in the comment section. Good luck! So for your attendance, magic password November 10, 2020, hashtag ICT Laban. Capital lahat yan ha. Good luck!
Personal computer disassembly and assembly. PC disassembly procedures. Step 1. Unplugging. The first thing you do is to unplug every cable that is plugged into your computer. That includes the cables such as power, USB, mouse, keyboard, Ethernet, modem, AM/FM antenna, cable TV, etc. Just unplug all the cables for safety purposes. Step 2. Opening the outer shell or case. First, unscrew the 4 screws at the back of the computer. On most computer cases, there will be large knobs that you can unscrew by hand or by screwdriver on the back right side of the computer. The left side has small screws because on the side you can't access much on the inside. Once the screws are removed, you can remove the side panels. On most computers, they just slide off. Start with the left side panel, slide it towards the back of the computer. Now you can remove the left panel, just like the other side. Slide it towards the back of the computer. Step 3. Removing the system fan. First, unplug the fan from the motherboard. You can find the plug by following the wire from the fan. Next, you will have to unscrew the fan from the outside. You should now be able to lift the fan out of the PC. Step 4. Removing the CPU fan. The CPU fan located right on top of the CPU heatsink, which is a large piece of metal with fins on the top. The CPU fan plugs into the motherboard in an awkward place. That is hard to access, but just follow the wires and you should easily find it. To remove the fan from the heatsink, remove the 4 screws securing it in place. Step 5. Detach the power supply. The first thing to do is unplug every wire coming from the power supply. You must disconnect the motherboard, CD/DVD drive, power, internal hard drive power, and portable hard drive slot power. Once everything is unplugged, unscrew the 4 screws holding the power supply in place on the back of the computer. Next, push the power supply from the outside and then lift it out. Step 6. CD/DVD drives. First, unplug the ribbon from the back of the drive. Once that is completed, pull on the tab securing the drive in place, then push it out from the inside. Step 7. Remove the hard drive. First, unplug the connector at the back of the slot and unplug the other end from the motherboard. Also, unplug the SATA cable from the motherboard and the hard drive. The portable hard drive slot is secured the same way the CD/DVD drive is, with a tab. Pull on the tab, then slide the slot out. To remove the hard drive from the side of the slot, unscrew the 4 screws securing it in place. You must be very careful not to drop the hard drive since it is very delicate. Step 8. Detach the memory or detach the RAM. To remove the RAM, push down on the both tabs holding the RAM in place, which are located at both ends of the RAM. Step 9. Remove the motherboard. The motherboard has 7 screws holding it to the frame, which are indicated by large white circles around them. Remove them and then lift the motherboard out of the frame. Step-by-step computer assembly or PC assembly procedures. Step 1. Prepare your workplace. Take inventory. Make space, make time. Prepare grounding protection. Have the drivers ready. Step 2. Prepare the motherboard. Great care should be taken when installing the motherboard. First, take the board out of its packaging and put it on top of the anti-static bag it came. Remember, you always want to safeguard your components from potentially hazardous static electricity. Wear your strap. Before you secure the motherboard onto PC case or chassis, inspect it carefully for any visible defects. Next, review the motherboard manual to make sure you are familiar with the motherboard layout and understand which socket is which. Manuals are extremely helpful, usually easy to read and include illustrations. Below you can find instructions on how to install the processor, the heatsink, and the memory modules on the motherboard. You should not place the motherboard into a computer case until you are told to do so. Step 3. Install the CPU. Use the unlocking mechanism to open the CPU socket, which is usually a lever. Carefully line up the pins and place the chip in its socket. It will fit only when oriented the proper way. An arrow or a missing pin on one corner of the chip will show you how to line things up. Align triangle CPU and socket key marks. Lower the lever to lock the CPU into place. Step 4. Install the CPU heatsink. Follow the manufacturer's directions to install the heatsink and the fan that will cool the processor. If you bought an OEM CPU and a separate heatsink, you may need to spread a thin layer of the thermal grease that came with the heatsink over the chip to ensure proper transfer to heat. Some heatsinks come with this grease already applied. Attach the clip that holds the heatsink in place, keeping in mind that it may require a fair amount of force. Again, follow the instructions that came with the heatsink. They will show you how to fit it correctly. If you are in doubt, you can visit the manufacturer's website for more information. Plug the CPU fan's power connector into the proper connector on the motherboard. Step 5. Install memory or RAM modules. In order to install the memory modules, insert them into proper sockets and push down firmly but evenly until the clips on both sides of the socket pop into place. If your motherboard supports dual-channel memory, consult the user manual to determine which pairs of RAM sockets you should choose. The motherboard and the CPU are the brain and nerve center of your PC, so selecting these components is the most important decision you make. Step 6. Place the motherboard into the case. Some PC cases have a removable motherboard tray. If yours does, remove the screws holding it in place and pull it out of the case. Note the pattern of the holes in your motherboard and screw brass standoffs into the motherboard tray or into the PC case in the correct location. Check the layout of the sockets on the motherboard and confirm that the parts of your motherboard's back panel match the holes on the case's input-output shield that is installed in your case. If necessary, remove the old I/O shield by tapping it firmly a few times with the butt end of a screwdriver and then replace it with the shield that came with the new motherboard. Carefully position the motherboard on top of the brass standoffs. Line up all the holes and use the screws that accompany the case to fasten down the motherboard. If you're using a removable tray in your system, slide the tray and motherboard back into the case and then secure the tray. Step 7. Connect power supply. Making the proper connections is crucial to successfully assembling your PC system. Fortunately, manufacturers provide color-coded power cables and unique connector shapes to make the job easy. First, plug the large ATX power connector from your power supply into the matching port on your motherboard. Locate the smaller, square processor power connector and attach it to the motherboard. Note, your connector is usually located near the processor. As always, refer to your motherboard's manual for the exact location. Use your motherboard user manual and find the description about front panel connectors. Attach each of the tiny lids from the power and reset switches, the hard disk activity lights, the PC speaker, and any front panel USB and FireWire ports to the corresponding pin on your motherboard. The needle nose pliers are useful for manipulating small pieces. Step 8. Install graphic or video cards. Begin by removing the back plane cover from the AGP or PCI Express 16 slot. Install the graphic cards on the slot and then secure the card with a screw. Step 9. Install internal drives. Make any necessary changes to jumpers and drives before mounting them in the case. A 2-drive system, 1 or 2 SATA, serial ATA is a standard hardware interface for connecting hard drives and CD/DVD drives to computer hard drives. plus one parallel ATA, advanced technology attachment, optical drive, for example, is easy to set up. The SATA drives are jumperless and the optical drive can be set as master on its own parallel ATA channel. Many cases have removable drive rails or cages to house drives. Use the included screw to attach your drives to the rails or cage and slide them into the case. For external accessible drives, such as DVD recorder, you can save time by installing one drive rail and sliding the drive in for a test fitting to make sure that its front is flush with the case. When the drives are installed, connect power and data cables to each one. Parallel ATA drives use wide data cables that can be installed only in the correct way. Floppy drives use a similar but smaller cable. SATA drives use a thin 1 cm wide data cable. SATA drives use a new type of power connector that many power supplies don't come with. Fortunately, many motherboards ship with adapters for converting a standard 4-pin power connector to a SATA power output. Step 10. Install the add-in cards. For each add-in card, you must choose a free PCI slot. Remove its back playing cover to allow access from the layer of the case. Carefully position the card above the slot and press down firmly to set the card. Secure the card with a screw. Many motherboards have additional sound connectors or ports housed on small add-in boards. Some of these plugs into slots in the motherboard. Others screws into the back of the case in place of slot covers. Usually, the additional ports are not essential to your case's operation. For example, if you install a sound card, you do not need connectors to the motherboard's built-in sound chip. Check your motherboard manual to determine what each of these ports does. Connecting peripherals of a computer. When attaching hardware and peripherals of the computer, ensure that they are connected to the correct locations or ports. For example, some mouse and keyboard cables use the same type of PS2 connector, so you must know first the different ports that can be found in the back panel of the computer. Keep in mind, when attaching cables, never force a connection. Plug in the power cable after you have connected all other cables. Steps in connecting external hardware of a PC. Step 1. Attach the monitor cable to the video port. Step 2. Secure the cable by tightening the screws on the connector. Step 3. Plug the keyboard cable into the PS2 keyboard port. Step 4. Plug the mouse cable into the PS2 mouse port. Step 5. Plug the USB cable into a USB port. Step 6. Plug the network cable into the network port. Step 7. Plug the power cable into the power supply.
So, for a review of our lesson, PC assembly and disassembly, I have here a diagram where na mas maintindihan natin ano ba yung tinutukoy natin na PC assembly and assembly. So, for our personal computer disassembly, ito yung mga flow niya kapag tayo ay nag-disassemble o nagbabaklas ng ating computer. Number 1, unplug all the cables and wire. Next, followed by open the outer shell or case. Step 3, remove the pan or the system pan. Then step 4, remove the CPU fan. Then step 5, remove the power supply. Then step 6, remove the CD, DVD drives or what we call optical drive. Then remove memory modules. Andyan yung RAM, kasama dyan. And the last part is remove the motherboard. After we disassemble, syempre, susunod na dyan na process ay yung pag-inventaryo or inventory at the same time paglilinis ng iba't ibang parts. So, kung malinis na inventory na ilang piraso at ano yung mga spec ng ating computer or ng ating mga pinagbabaklas, that's the time na ready ka na para i-assemble ulit ang inyong personal computer. Now, for the step for computer assembly, ganito ang magiging flow niya. First, prepare your workplace. Kailangan maayos yan, malinis. Then, followed by, prepare the motherboard. When we talk about the preparing of the motherboard, kailangan nakaayos, nalinis gamit ang ating cleaning materials. Then, after that, install the CPU or the central processing unit. Then, install the CPU heatsink. Then, ilagay din o install the memory RAM modules. Kapag ito ay kompleto na, that's the time na pwede mo nang ilagay yung motherboard sa case. That's step number 6. Then, step 7, connect the power supply, followed by install the graphic video cards, then the internal drives, and some of the adds in. So, ganyan ang magiging flow ng ating personal computer assembly. So, tandaan ang diagram, paano ang pag-assemble. Baka kaya mo siyang baklasin, pero di mo siya kayang buuin. So, kailangan kung kaya mong baklasin, kaya mo din siyang ibalik sa dati nang gumagana. So, good luck and for your attendance, November 12, 2020, #ICT Kapit lang. So, good luck and tomorrow, we have the synchronous quiz number 2. Coverage, lahat ng diniscuss natin dito. Thank you and good luck.